So full time in February, it was my best month ever. I made $17,300. It feels overwhelming, and it's very surreal, and it's fantastic because the stress you don't have when you make $17,000 a month is amazing.
Can I ask you a question? Is that the most you've ever made in one calendar month as an
Oh
adult?
my God, easily.
Another episode of On the Road with the Loan Signing System, out here with signing agent Brad in the wonderful state of Maryland. How you doing today, man?
Doing fantastic. Living the dream. Couldn't be
Liv-
better.
Living the dream. I cannot wait to share your story because, like all these stories, yours is super inspiring. Let's just start off with some people. Brad, how much money did you make last month as a loan signing agent?
Last month, part time, I made $11,000.
Part-time, $11,000. You just had a brand new baby. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. Yeah, our baby boy Samuel. We're glad to have him here.
I love it. How much did you make the month before your baby came?
So full time in February, it was my best month ever. I made $17,300.
$17,000 in one calendar month. When I repeat that back to you, man, like what are you feeling? Tell me the feelings when you hear that out loud, because that's an insane number.
It it feels overwhelming, and it's very surreal, and it's fantastic because the stress you don't have when you make $17,000 a month is amazing.
And can I ask you a question? Is that the most you've ever made in one calendar month as an
Oh
adult?
my God, easily.
And I love it because money can't buy you happiness, but it can reduce some stress. That is for sure.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm so excited about telling everyone your story, your journey. It's as inspiring as any we've ever told. I'm excited about digging in there. But since you are in the state of Maryland, which is an attorney state, I got to do my classic disclaimer. Neither Brad nor I are attorneys. We're simply telling a story, a journey of someone who's in an attorney state. Always follow your state laws. With that being said, man, let's take people back from the beginning, Brad. I start off with a question that I ask every single one of you successful students is, why did you become a signing agent?
So I've been in the restaurant business my entire life since I was 16, and um, I just didn't get to spend any time with my wife and my beautiful daughter because you work weekends and nights, and it's incredibly taxing on you emotionally because you just don't get to spend those quality time with your family. And that's why I wanted something different, something more flexible, and that would allow me more time to spend with my family. It's very important.
Yeah, I mean, I served tables all through college. On the one side of the restaurant industry, it's very glitz and glamour, right? You're working at a nice restaurant, everyone knows your name. But on the other side, man, if anyone's watching this who's worked in a restaurant, you know that it could be so draining and encompassing. And, you don't get off until midnight. And sometimes you got to open up the next day and you got to be
Mhm.
back in at 7. And, holidays you're working. And sometimes you're working these 12-hour shifts on your feet. There is nothing glamorous on the backside of restaurants, so you're right. But, I think that's relatable because a lot of people at some point in life have maybe worked in the restaurant industry. But I think you said something, man, that was pretty powerful, and that's like you felt like you were not there for your family. I mean, talk about that a little bit more because whether you're in the restaurant industry or another industry, being away from family is tough, and kind of talk through that so people kind of know really where you came from on and why you work as hard as you do to become as successful as you have in this industry.
Right. So, I mean, to boil it down, I just felt kind of like a failure that, as I mentioned before, I I was a college dropout. I thought I could take over the world as a restaurant general manager, and I hadn't advanced at all in 20 years. And I felt like I was failing myself and my own goals I've set for myself. I haven't accomplished yet in my 20s. I felt like I was failing my family because my wife specifically, because she would always have to, watch our child on the weekend with holidays, and I never got to spend as much time as I wanted to. And I knew there was something better out there, both for myself and for my family, and I wanted to find out what that was and get there as quick as I can.
You said something, man, you said a lot of things that were very vulnerable. So thank you. And I think people out there to some certain degree can relate to a specific sentence you said, and which I thought was really deep, which is, I felt like a failure to myself. Right? That's a crazy deep sentence because, it's one thing to like feel the outside pressures of just society and family. But it's another, like, to feel like you failed yourself. What do you mean by that? Take us a little bit down that journey. Because obviously, man, with a $17,000 full month business, you are no longer there.
Right.
But to help someone else, if they maybe are currently going through that, I feel like I'm failing self moment, I want you to, help them realize A, they're not alone, and B, kind of how you got through that to get to where you are today. So, when you say you failed yourself, like dig deeper into that.
Sure. What I mean by that is that, in my 20s, I wrote all these wonderful goals that I would be retired by 45 and I'd be traveling the world. And fast forward to now, I'm 39 years old. I'm working at restaurants. I can, barely pay my bills. There's not a lot in savings, and you can't give the life you want to your kids and your wife if you don't have those resources. And that's kind of really where it hit home for me, is because I knew that I could do better and perform better, and I was nowhere near where I could possibly be, and I knew there was something that I should be doing. I just didn't know what it was.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I think everyone at some point, man or woman, kind of can relate to that somewhere in their journey. When you say you feel like you're failing your wife, I mean, families, I mean, talk through that a little, because obviously now, man, you're not anything but. I had 17,000 or $11,000 last month when you had your baby. But, talk through some of those feelings of letting down your wife, if you don't mind, because like I said, you're not the only person to feel like they're letting down their spouse, but not a lot of people are willing to talk about that. And I want to take people through the journey that you're no longer doing that. So, what does that feel like? What do you mean by that more specifically?
So my first off, my wife is an amazing woman. She's a full-time nurse. She works 12, 13, 14-hour shifts. And to get off those shifts where she's been on her feet all day, to come home, and I'm still at the restaurant until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And then she also has to pick up my daughter from daycare and take care of her for several hours while she's emotionally and physically drained.
Mm.
You know, that's a big part of it, not being there as I should be as a father, spending more time, taking the load. It's a partnership in a marriage. So I felt like I wasn't really pulling my weight because I wasn't spending the time I should be here and helping her.
Wow, that's so you said something again. You're just being so vulnerable that you feel like you weren't pulling your weight. I think now you are, because not only were you able to take time off last month to be with your brand new baby, you were still able to bring in $11,000 in a month while you're doing that part time. So you're able to be there for the family and provide. I mean, how does your wife look at you now that you've started this amazing business?
So my wife is I'll believe it when I see it kind of person. She's a little skeptical. And this is not the first business I've started, and I failed businesses. So hence the skepticism. But now that she's seen that I'm all in, I'm committed, this is my full-time job. I'm not a toe dipper, and the money has come in, and we have money in the bank, and we are fast forwarding our retirement, and saving for house projects, and there's no stress, and I have more time to spend with her, and I can play with my daughter and now my son. And there's no restrictions. I don't have to ask my boss for time off if I need it to spend time with my family.
No, it's awesome, because what I heard in there too, and I love these conversations because they're so organic, is that you failed other businesses. I didn't know that. And so, I want to help somebody now through your journey of, kind of making it to the other side, right? I mean, it sounds like a few things. Here's what I've been hearing, right? You're constantly trying to get better. A lot of people want to get better, but you're actually doing things and attempting to get better. But it sounds like you failed a few times to get to this business. So what I want to ask you is, what kind of kept you perpetually moving forward, right? Because I want you to speak to someone else who might have started another business and they feel like maybe that failure has defined them, right? What I love about your journey in this conversation is, you felt like you failed yourself, you felt like you failed your family, but yet you didn't play victim. You're like, I can still get to that next level. So you're constantly pushing yourself. So I want to try to help someone if they're in the spot of like maybe the bottom of what made you move forward. How come you didn't let these failures define you? Talk about that, because I think that's kind of another awesome part of your journey.
Right. So honestly, failure is not an option when you have a family and two kids. What's your other option? To settle for mediocrity and just work for someone else the rest of your life and think about your wonderful dreams that you never had the gumption to actually go after and accomplish. So honestly, at this point in my life, failure is not an option. um, I had to provide for my family. I had to give them more than I had growing up. And, so if you failed a business, the wonderful thing about failing a business is you are now that much wiser when you're starting your next business. And that's the beauty of learning and failing. The most successful people have failed the most, not avoided failure. And that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Well, I mean, I think you said something that was beautiful. There should be a t-shirt that says failure is not an option.
Amen.
And what I really heard by that is like your family drives your actions, right?
Absolutely.
And so what I think is beautiful and powerful, and what I want people to hear in that statement is when you put your why at the forefront of what you're doing, then failure is not an option, right? You say, look, I got a family, like there is no other choice. And so what I really heard is every day you wake up, like they're right here in front of you. And I think that shouldn't be lost. So if someone's kind of going through a moment of, quote unquote, a failure, because I don't really believe in failures. I believe in lessons. I think that as an LSS student, like we learn from everything. I think you said it best. The best part about, getting a business that didn't go the way you wanted to is you now start the next business at a higher educational point because you learn from all those previous mistakes. So I love that you said that. But again, I don't want it lost that, you said failure is not an option. Your why is so big that it drives you to keep going. And we're going to talk about like your nerves of getting direct business and all that in a moment. But I think it's beautiful that you didn't let your failures define you and you really understood that there is no plan B. Just because this didn't work doesn't mean I'm not going to not do this. If somebody else right now, Brad, speak to somebody else, because I think you are an appropriate person to talk to somebody who is maybe down and who's maybe failed a business, who maybe is looking at themselves right now and says, I'm a failure. Talk through them to help them get through that and let them know there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. So first off, just because this business didn't work does not mean you cannot start another incredibly successful business tomorrow. That is on you. As you mentioned, you cannot play the victim. You can feel sorry for yourself for a little bit, but you have to get over that because you have very big why. You have several reasons why you want to be successful. So the more reasons you get, the more successful and more things you can accomplish. So absolutely, you can feel bad for a second, but it's time to move on. You've got bigger dreams to accomplish, and you're not going to do it feeling sorry for yourself. You have got to pick yourself up and keep getting after it, whatever that is you're doing.
I love it, man. Let me ask you this question. If you could build this business, do you think anybody can build this business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, as you say many times, it's the best kept secret in real estate. You think about real estate agents and you think about loan officers, but you don't think about a notary. It's an incredible, incredible business. There's so much out there. And if you have the abundance mindset that there's plenty of business out there, no matter what the industry is doing, you can succeed in this business. There will be no limits to your income.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, let's speak about that income, right? Because I think your journey is super inspiring. Take people through your journey to inspire the income part of your journey, excuse me,
Sure.
to inspire them because you're only 6 months in. So what did you make month number one as being a signing agent?
So month one was October. I took my first signing October 20th. So I did 1,900 that last week of October.
Okay. First off, incredible. 1 week, $1,900. And you went from a restaurant manager to a signing agent. Incredible. What'd you make month number two?
So after that first week, that was my proof of concept. So I put my 2 weeks notice in. So November, the first half I was doing both. The second half I was all LSS. So that month was 7,500.
Okay, first off, let me say something. And I'm not trying to tell anybody, I want to preface what I'm about to say, but I don't encourage any student to quit their job. I always tell people that is a family decision. But I want something noticed here is you saw an opportunity and you made the decision to go all in. Absolutely. And you went from 19, I think you said 7,300, right? And I think, but I don't want that missed, right? Because what I think sometimes missed by some students who watch these is like, oh, Brad makes $11,000 a month. What isn't, I hope it's not missed, is you chose to go all in. And I think that's the mindset of you big earners. There really isn't any plan B. It's like, okay, cool. I see the possibilities. It's now up to me to go gung ho, to go all in, to just ride the motivation, ride the momentum. And so I don't want that loss. Like it took you a week of like, I see it. I'm putting my 2 weeks in. Now I'm not trying to tell anybody to quit your job, but what I'm trying to make sense of is the mindset of a $17,000 a month earner. And that is, I see something, I'm going to go get it. That is a beautiful thing. And I hope people are inspired by that. It's because you can create the same business Brad did, but you just got to go all in at some point. And that's the mentality that I don't want lost. So I'm sorry for interrupting you there,
Oh,
but
you're fine. Just to speak to that point, like you mentioned, when you're all in and there's no failure is not an option and your back's against the wall, it is amazing what human beings can do. You will just push through every wall and every objection to accomplish whatever you need to accomplish. And that's, I knew that was where my mindset was. So I felt very confident in that move. But I agree, that is a family decision for everyone.
but you said something that was crazy, and I love these conversations because they're so organic. Is you almost decided purposely to put your own back against the wall because you knew if my back is against the wall, I have no choice but to build this to the sky. It's like, I'm going to quit my job so my back's against the wall, because once my back's against the wall, then I have no choice but to market. I have no choice but to do all the things that will make this business successful. And again, I'm not trying to encourage anybody to leave their jobs, but I do want it. The mindset's what I'm trying to pull out of you. And the mindset's like, I'm going to purposely make myself uncomfortable. I'm living in a comfort zone. I really can't accomplish anything great. But if I put myself purposely out of my comfort zone, then I have no choice but to build the business. And again, the mindset's what I wanted to extract out of that, not necessarily quit your job. And so,
Right.
but again, big earners aren't big earners on accident. And that's the point I'm trying to make is Brad made a very, very bold decision to put his 2 weeks in after a 20-year career, because you wanted to put yourself in a place where like it had to work. You knew if you were still working with the restaurant, then you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll market today. Maybe I won't market today. It's like, if you have no job, you have no choice but to market. And that's what I love about these conversations. So again, hope nothing's lost in translation, not telling you to quit your job. I'm just trying to extract the real mindset of what you're going to be a 6-figure earner this year. And that mindset of like, I need to create myself being uncomfortable. I need to force myself out of a comfort zone. I need to put myself against the wall. And it's crazy you did that, man.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I would never, if I had to do it over again, I probably would have quit faster.
Okay, cool. So let's continue people through your journey here. First month, 1,900, second month, 73. What'd you make your third month?
December was 13,300.
And what'd you make the month after that?
13,200.
What'd you make the month after that?
17,300.
And then last month?
11,000 even.
I mean, once you got to the 10K club, you haven't looked back.
I'm not going to. I don't, that is the threshold. I don't want to go below that. I want to be able to take vacations, spend time with family, and still get there. It's kind of like just a milestone. You don't want to retreat when you've had a certain level. You want to stay there.
Again, I love looking into the mindset of a $10,000 a month signing agent. It's like, once you hit your goal, you're never going back. I love it. What I also want to show people in your progress is, once you're at the 10K club, and what I'm trying to, why I always give out the awards for the 10K club is because once you get to the 10K club, it's actually really easy to sustain it. The hard part's getting there, but once you get there, it's easy to sustain because you've built the relationships. When you get to that 10K club, and I want people to be inspired, but you haven't dipped below that. You had a newborn, took time off, still cleared $11,000 in a month. And so the point I'm trying to make through your journey there is, once you hit the 10K club, it's actually pretty easy to sustain. The hard part's getting there. The hard part's all the hard work's getting to the 10K. But once you get there, I don't want to say easy, but it's all about relationship management. And so we talked about really deepening those relationships. And it's easy from that standpoint because you're more in relationship building than you are in trying to aggregate new business. And so, man, what an incredible journey. But let's take people back. You ready? Okay. Sure. And so I think there's a myth or thought process that if you make $17,000 a month, like you're full of no fear, you're full of like, oh, this just comes so easy to you, comes so natural. And so you had a big jump. I'm looking at the notes that I'm writing here about your income journey. You went from 1,900 to 73. What was the big difference in why that jump happened?
So 19 to 73 was the primary difference. Was 1,900. I only worked 1 week in October. the 7,300 was a full month of November, but the second half of November is when I started marketing direct and starting to go that direction so I could increase my profits while doing the same amount of work. That's just the work smarter, not harder concept.
Okay, cool. So basically, you're attributing it from going part time to full time, but really, when you're going full time, it's about making the decision, going direct, keeping the entire signing fee, knowing that you're worth more, knowing that you got to stop working for signing services. So let's take people back to the journey of marketing direct for the first time, because I want to use your journey to inspire them of what it takes. It wasn't handed to you. It wasn't this easy thing that just came natural. Because I think there's a belief that if you're making $10,000 or more, that you're just a natural born salesperson, right? You were a restaurant manager. So let's say people the first time you went marketing direct. Talk about your feelings, if you were nervous at all. Walk people through what that looked like to help them.
Okay, so I definitely cheated I use my resources. So I use the Facebook group, the LSS Facebook group, to get ideas of what kind of gift baskets to make, and also your trainings on that subject. So I made 5 gift baskets with all kinds of goodies and looked up title companies that were close to me, and decided to send a couple an email. And then I physically wanted to go in and drop off gift baskets.
Well,
Introduce myself.
let's stop there, right? So you said something again, and I apologize for interrupting. Sometimes you
Oh, you're
students
fine.
make great comments that I got to extract. You said something really fast, and I want to talk about it. And you said that you threw out emails. Why did you choose to throw out emails? Talk people through that so
Sure.
people understand, why your game plan happened.
Sure. So, I'm an introvert. I am not an extroverted person. If you stick me in a party in a room for 3 hours and you get more than 5 sentences out of me, you're doing something good. So, my natural instinct was to hide behind my laptop and send emails to title companies. So I would go to their websites and send out emails where I could find escrow officer contacts, and I sent them. And for the most part, it was a lot of crickets. I did get one that got back to me that was really super busy EO, and she decided to use me almost out of the gate. So I really lucked out there. But the rest, because of the crickets, I knew that I had to take it another step and get beyond the fear that I had of rejection and actually attempt to go in and introduce myself, because I knew that would probably be the most effective way.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about this going in, but let's back up. You said something I think is super powerful, is because I think a lot of people see me and like, oh, Mark's a natural extrovert. That's why he makes 6 figures as a signing agent. You just stated very blatantly you're an introvert. So I want you to speak to other introverts real quick, because there's probably more introverts than there are extroverts in this world, right? And especially as signing agents, we have a bunch of students who would label themselves introverted. By the way, Robin Schmidt, our most successful LSS student, is an introvert. Yep. So, she told the story in her interview with me where she had to go to the grocery store and get deodorant because she was sweating so bad before her first, walk-in title company. So, but I want you to inspire some introverts right now. Okay. And so, my first topic is, in this introvert conversation is, do you think that, let me say it like this. When you walk into a title office, right, are they necessarily looking for the most boisterous signing agent? Or is it more to do with the work you do as a signing agent than the personality you have? Let's talk about that really quickly.
Sure. So definitely it's your quality of work. It's a combination of your quality of work, and you do what you'll say you're going to do. So are you professional? Do you show up to your appointments early? Do you drop docs early? So it has nothing really to do with the personality. Now, some EOs you may not click with because you have different personalities. You've touched on this, but for the most part, I've never got a personality clash with anyone. It's just, do you do great work? Are you on time? Do you do what you say you're going to do? And that's it.
I love it. And I agree with everything you just said, but I love how it comes from another introvert to help another introvert. Because I think there's a myth for the students who are introverted that like, oh, they're looking for the super flamboyant person. Oh, they're looking for someone who has the natural gift of gab. Oh, they're looking for the natural born salesperson. And I can say that all day long, but people are like, oh yeah, Mark, well, you're a natural salesperson, so it's easy for you to say it. But are you letting fellow introverts know that like, look, you just got to go in and introduce yourself and you'll get the business. They're not looking for Mr. or Mrs. Personality. They're looking for what you just said. Will you live up to your word?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's tough. You have to take that step to get out from behind your computer and get in your car and drive there. But yeah, they're just looking for excellent work, and they want to build a relationship with someone who does all those things we talked about, not necessarily someone who's going to sell them something, because you're not really selling anything.
I love it. I love it. And thank you for, like I said, you're being very vulnerable in this interview, and that's what's going to help people. And the fact that you said you're introverted will help everybody else. And so I love, whether you're introverted or you're not, I love that you use the email tactic first, right? I always tell you students, there's not a wrong or right way to build this business. Well, I tell you students, I encourage you as much as I can to get in and go face to face. I'm not against you throwing out emails, and I want, and it's worked for Alex Montez. It's worked for you, right? And so
Where do you think I got that idea?
I hope everyone's hearing that, right? You roll it from another on the road. But what I want to inspire people with is there's not a wrong or right way to build this business.
Right.
You threw out emails, you use the script in the email, you got a 1 out of 5. And by the way, that's a 20% ratio. In the email marketing world, that is like a grand slam to get a 20% respond rate. So you got 1 out of 5 people. So I want everyone to be encouraged. If you're an LSS student, if you're a little bit introverted and you want to use the email introduction approach first, he's saying it worked for him. It doesn't hurt to try it for yourself. And so I want people to be inspired by that. So let's take the next step. You said something else. You sent out the emails, 1 person responded. Let's walk people through what your next step was there. Walk people through some of those introverted nerves you had. Tell people the play by play. 1 person responded back to you. What was the next move?
So the one EO responded back to me, who is my best EO today, super busy. So I lucked out there, but I knew the rest. I was going to have to physically go in and introduce myself. So decided which title offices I was going to physically go into. Besides the one I got the response back from, I was going to go to 4 others all in one day and use that momentum to kind of hopefully get me through the day. I knew the first one was going to be tough, and it was.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the first one.
Sure.
So let's take people back to the first one. So you got the email. My guess is your first one was a person who responded to the email.
Yes.
Okay. So let's take people through that moment to walk them through your nerves and kind of your introverted play-by-play. You pulled up. Were you scared? Did you sit in your car? Like, try to take people back to the beginning, because I want them to feel like they're not alone if they sit in their car. They're not alone if they're sweating. They're not alone if they're like almost thinking about not walking in the front door. If you can remember to 6 months ago, take people through that moment.
Sure. So yeah, I was definitely nervous. So once I found that first office that I got the introduction EO through, she's super busy. She wasn't actually there. I found out later, but sitting in the parking lot. And then I just kind of sat there for a few minutes trying to go through, okay, what script am I going to say? Because I didn't know the EO wasn't there. So I thought I would talk with her that day. And so I kind of went through that several times and slurred it terribly. And I just said, okay, well, I can either keep doing this for another 30 minutes or just walk in and get it over with, and and get in front of the firing squad and see what happens. And so I got my basket. I walked.
Yeah, let me pause you. First off, thank you for explaining that, because I want everyone to see, like, these big earners are just like you and I. They're nervous. They second guess themselves. They doubt themselves. And so if you're watching this and you're doubting yourself or second guessing, like, that doesn't make you weird. And in fact, that makes you normal, in my opinion. So what was the real moment? If you can take people back, like you say, look, you said, I got to go in front of the firing squad. I just got to get this over with. Do you remember, like, what really motivated? What was that final moment for you? You're like, I got to do this. I'm going to say that. Like, what really said, you know what? Open the door and get out. Do you remember that moment by any chance?
Yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, failure is not an option. That's exactly what I thought about. Taking care of my wife, making sure I could spend time with my daughter. None of that was going to be possible unless I went all in on this business. And that's why I was here. So why not keep going? You made the baskets. Just get out of your car and do it. You can do it.
I mean, I hope everybody heard that. First off, I love your mantra, failure is not an option. It's a beautiful one. And again, the reason I asked you that question is, my guess was it related back to your why. And so what I'm trying to help coach people through is, it's your job to remember your why every step of the process. For you, it's like, I couldn't give my wife the life she deserved if I was just going to stay in the car. I couldn't give my daughter the life she deserved if I was just going to stay in this car. And And I want people to see that that's what you draw upon. And I want everybody to draw upon their why. It's successful signing agents aren't successful on accident. That's the point I'm trying to make is they're nervous just like you are. They're introverted just like you are, but they make the decision of, I love your saying, failure is not an option. And that's your mantra. And you said, you know what, I'm going to do this. Let's go.
Yep.
So let's take people through the next steps. You walk up, you're nervous as heck. You're in the front door. Talk people through that. I mean, you're scared of the word no. What were you scared of? And did some of the narratives that you played out in your own head come true?
Right. So yeah, I've never been in sales in my life. So that's kind of what my concern was, that I was going to get a hard no. No, we don't use signing agents. We do everything in house. No, we're good. Appreciate the free stuff. See you later. So yeah, that was my concern, because no one likes getting rejected. I'm an introvert, so it was a challenge for me in high school to ask someone on a date or for a dance. So, I always had this fear of no for a long time. And that's kind of what I was hoping would not happen.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it did not happen.
Well, take people through that, man, because
yeah,
I appreciate you being super vulnerable in that moment, because I think everyone's scared of the word no. But you said it didn't happen, right? I mean, you obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, I'm assuming you didn't get a yes, but you didn't get the dreaded no you feared. Talk people through that, because they're so scared of that word no. So what ended up happening? I mean, did they talk through that so people realize it's not as scary as it happens in their own mind?
right. So the first office, the EO wasn't there, so I talked with the receptionist, Marjorie, who's wonderful, and have a great relationship with her now. But at the time, I didn't know what her role was other than receptionist and gatekeeper. So I said, "Hey, I'm here to drop off this wonderful gift basket for Angela, and I don't know if you guys use signing agents or not, but here's my business cards. Enjoy the snacks." And she said, "Okay, great. I'll give that to her and put it on her desk." And that was it. I
That was it. That's great. Like, that's what I love you telling the story. It's like, you didn't get a no. It's like, that's great. Okay, I'll put on desk. Thank you so much for stopping in today. People think they're going to come in and exactly what you said, a hard no. We don't use signing agents. We're all signing agents in-house. It's like, that's great. I
Yeah.
love it. That's what you'll get 9 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times. Like, that's great. I'll pass your information forward. Okay, so I want to talk about a few different things here. I don't know where I want to go. Okay, so you walked out. Tell the emotions that you felt at that moment. Relief. Like, what were you talking about when you walk out there? What are the feelings?
So it's a combination of things. Relief, first off, is like, whoo, okay. I survived. I did not get a no. That really was not that bad. Matter of fact, it was fine. And let's get these other baskets out of my car before it gets too warm and the chocolate melts.
I love it. And so, what I heard was you at that point allowed the momentum to create more momentum. Where a lot of rookie signing agents will go to one title office, pack it in for the day, go back home, and that was a win. By the way, that could be a win. But I'm trying to get into the mindset of a 6-figure signing agent, which you will eventually be. Is you allow that one win, you force yourself to, like, okay, that worked. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. So I want people to hear that in your journey. It wasn't like a one and done moment. It was like, okay, I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. That wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Let me go to my next. Am I kind of right on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thought I had was, okay, now let's do that a little bit smoother this time.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you brought that up. So, you said in the car you were memorizing the scripts that I give. You walked in. It didn't sound like you even gave the script, which
Not
is
really.
okay. Because again, I want people to see, like, you walk in and you could completely forget the script, but you're like, okay, now I know what it's like. I can do better next time. And that's the mentality of a big earner. It's not like I need to be perfect every time. It's
Right.
cool. Sometimes the winning is just in the doing. And your first one was just in the doing of getting through the door. And so you go to the next ones. Okay. So we go through the next one. Let's keep people walking through your journey here. Okay. So you walk through the next one. It's safe to say that all those people all the title companies you walked into, no one used you that same day. Talk people
Right.
through kind of the next process so they can see kind of like how you got the clients that you currently have.
Sure. So the next day, I followed up, emailed with every office and EO if I had their information. Otherwise, it's just the office emails. Hey, I hope you enjoyed my gift basket. I would love to meet you in the office and set up a time that we can chat and go from there.
Cool. And so so what I heard, I hope everyone's taking notes. You followed up in person. Well, frankly, let's take the beginning. You emailed, you went in, and then you followed up with another email.
And in
Okay,
that
cool.
follow-up email, that's where I actually used the script that I couldn't organically say because I was a little bit new at it, obviously, the first day. But
Okay,
that's where
cool.
I got the script in.
Perfect. Perfect. So I hope people heard that again. So the follow-up, he used the script in the course as the follow-up. So it wasn't like you needed to come up with some fancy words yourself. You just cut and pasted a script. I hope all LSS students heard that. So because a lot of people ask me, Mark, what do you say in a follow-up email? What do you say? And you answered what you did was, outside of the hope it was good to see you, hope you liked the gift basket, it was the script cut and pasted. Hope LSS students heard that. Okay, so you follow with the script. Talk me through the next steps.
And then I would say after the follow-up email, I did get a couple responses, but I didn't get a solid, hey, let's sit down and chat. Let's get your credentials, et cetera. Let's get you on board. So I knew I had to take another step. So the following week, I went back into those 4 offices that I didn't, or the 5 that hadn't decided to use me yet, and introduced myself again and said, hey, I'm still open for business. What can I do to get on your team?
Okay. I mean, I hope everyone's getting inspired. You're getting the play-by-play here. It started with email, went with a face-to-face meeting. It followed with an email, then it followed up with a follow-up in person. What I want this story to inspire people is the action you've taken. Like, you're not making $17,000 a month on accident. Like, you have chosen to follow up. You've chosen to push past your fear. You're an admittedly introvert, but you said, look, if I'm going to give the life to my wife that she deserves, I'm going to have to continually push myself out of my comfort zone, go in and follow up. A lot of our students are signing agents on the outside say, look, they're making $17,000 a month because they're natural born salespeople, or they're making $17,000 because their best friend's an escrow office or their mom's a real estate agent. You're like, no, email, follow up in person, email, follow up in person. That's what I hope people like. You guys want to play by play? He just gave it to you. Email in person, email in person. I love it. Is there anything that I'm missing that, so it's kind of rinse and repeat until they finally said, yes, let's get your credentials in. Let's give you that first signing. Is there anything that you can give a play-by-play that would help someone kind of continue what you did?
Yeah. So if I had to do it all over again, I would have made sure that I put it on my calendar to make sure that I marketed every week the same day, which for me, the best day is Wednesday. They're buried in emails Monday and Tuesday. They're squeezing in appointments Thursday and Friday. Wednesday seemed to be the most effective day when I could get the most time from them, and I could get my script in front of them, and they could actually, pay attention to me, and that seemed to be the best approach. So I would encourage you LSS students or anyone who's on the fence, if you're going to market, put it on your calendar, make it every week, make it a habit. And when it's a habit, you just do it without thinking, and you'll be much more successful, because I didn't do that, and I should have done that from the get-go, and I got too busy in the industry. And when you're doing 17,000 a month, you're like, when do I have time to market? But it's one of those incredible things that you have to make time for on your calendar, because it's one of the most, what's the most effective thing you can do in your business as a loan signing agent? It's marketing. That's it. So you can't avoid that.
Dude, you dropped so much fire. I hope everybody heard his philosophy on the best day to market your business direct. First off, that is like the golden nugget of golden nuggets. I love how you explained your reasoning behind why it's the best day, because I get that often. Right. Mark, what's the day to market? What's the best day? What's the best time to market? So you answered a very common question. But next thing I heard, and again, I hope everyone's hearing the same thing in all of these interviews, is you wish, if you could do it all over again, that you're more consistent in your marketing. Mm-hmm. Big earning signing agents aren't big earners on accident. It is, I need to be consistent. I am consistent. I'm showing up every day. I'm putting massive action in. Everybody, I mean, you market every single Wednesdays. I love it, right? There's no wrong or right way to build a business. My favorite day is Mondays. You're right. They are inundated with emails on Mondays, especially when they get back from 1,000 fires over the weekend. But
Right.
that doesn't mean that my system is better than yours. What you should be doing is learning from everybody on these interviews and then testing out in your market what the best days is. So he told you it's Wednesday, but look, man, I think your story has been unbelievably inspiring. You're giving people play by plays. You're introverted. But again, I mean, if an introverted person like you can build this business to as big as it is, can anyone do that?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. I mean, if I had some extra personality, sure, I could probably hook some more EOs. And but hey, I'm working with the hand I've been dealt. And you know, I take it as a point of strength. I'm introverted, but my strengths are attention to detail and being professional, showing up on time, and making sure that nothing's missed. And when you're talking constantly, as I found out as a signing service owner, sometimes things get missed, and sometimes you miss something because you're chatting too much. So
I do. You said something that was beautiful is, and again, you know, the funny part is people see being introverted as a negative. I don't think it's a negative. I don't think it's a positive or negative. It just is what it is, right? Being an extrovert's not a positive. It just is what it is. So instead of seeing something as a positive or negative, you're like, look, I'm going to draw into that as a strength and almost use it as a marketing leverage into why someone should hire me. So if you're introverted, you know, like don't look at it as a negative because it's not a negative. In fact, I would completely agree with you. Someone who's super outgoing like me, the biggest, hardest part for me is having the appointment not go over because I'm talking so much. The hardest part for me is not trying to hold a conversation while I'm trying to get through all the documents and I'm missing an initial. So if you're introverted, you tend to be a little more laser focused, really honing in on the details of the business. Again, a strength. And so you should never look at something as a positive or negative. Introverted is what it is. And same with being an extrovert. Just want to try to bring into whatever the strengths are of that personality trait. And dude, unbelievable interview so far, man. I'm so excited. So let's just kind of segue to the next part of this, you know, in
sure.
this conversation. And I think you've seen a handful of these where, you know, my next question always is what is, you know, if your best friend was going to be a loan signing agent, what is the one tip you would give them to grow their business?
So that would definitely be working on your mindset and working on your personal development, because this industry is so dynamic and amazing, and it's such a crazy, amazing income producing tool, possibly, if you have the right mindset. But the problem is that we have a lot of employee mindset. We're kind of, I guess, you know, we just kind of rammed down our throats a little bit going through school about get a job, go to college, work for someone else, and have stable, you know, career. So it's kind of hard to get from that mindset to an entrepreneur's mindset where, okay, the sky really is the limit. I could make $100,000 a month or $1 million a month versus, okay, well, my goals are a little smaller. So maybe I don't work as hard. I don't market as hard. So it's definitely working on your personal development and, you know, getting a nice library of folks to listen to and to coach you on. You know, I love Jim Rohn. I love Tony Robbins. You know, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, working in quadrant 2, being way more efficient and working on the things that matter the most. So get a good library going and pull the best from those different personalities and personal development folks to strengthen that mindset. Because if you have a really good mindset, you can take off like that in this industry. You can get the tools that Mark provides, and then you can just kind of explode, as you've seen on some of these on the road with Brian Tate and Alexander and Autumn last week. And they all have that mindset. Like you said, failure's not an option. There are no limits. The only thing holding me back is me. So if I want things to change, I'm the one that's going to have to change those things.
I'm trying to write down notes so I don't forget anything of the fire you just dropped. I mean, honestly, what I think the best takeaway is the best piece of advice you'd give your friend has nothing to do with being a signing agent at all.
Nope.
And that is what should be powerfully deep to everybody. Is your number one tip has nothing to do with the X's and O's of being a signing agent. It has everything to do with personal growth and thinking big and reaching big and living in quadrant 2, which I'm going to talk about a little bit because that's Dr. Stephen R. Covey, who obviously huge fan of as well. But what I want people to really hear in that tip is The tip has nothing to do with being a signing agent. So many signing agents come onto these expecting an X's and O's tip. Oh, because I give you guys the freedom to say whatever you want. If it's something in the course that's a marketing thing, like, you guys are free to say it, but you'll notice that almost the biggest resounding theme in everyone's tip is nothing to do with the X's and O's.
Right.
It's all about personal growth and personal development mindset. And I think one of the biggest mindset things you said that I try to teach is, if you think small, small is all you're ever going to get. Like, unfortunately, we set small goals because we subconsciously set small goals because we don't think we're capable of big goals. And we do it subconsciously, like, oh, I'm going to become a signing agent, and and all he wants an extra $2,000 a month. Oh, I'm going to become a signing agent. If I make $5,000 a month, that's a golden business for me. And we only set those small goals because we feel like we're not capable of deserving of big goals. I want all of you guys to think big, like B, you could have a 7-figure signing service, and you should stop short nothing of $1 million plus a year. That's how you have to think. That's how we have to believe, because you can do more than 100 closings with your signing service, man. You can do 1,000 closings a month. And it's the mindset of knowing you're capable of doing that, and we're powerful enough and deserving of that is what's going to make you reach that goal. So like I said, I hope everybody really heard what he said. Is the best tip has nothing to do with being a signing agent. The best tip is thinking big. Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Dr. Stephen R. Covey, all people that I love. What I love too is understanding what quadrant 2 means, right? Quadrant 2 means focusing your times that are you're focusing your time on items that are going to move the needle the most. And I think a lot of signing agents who don't follow Stephen R. Covey's work live in quadrant 2 without even realize they're living in quadrant 2. And I say that because, you made the point of, I need to market every single Wednesday. I need to market more. You talk to the Bills and Noongas and the Autumns and the Alexes and the Brian Tates. They're all marketing like crazy. That is living in quadrant 2. A good signing agent knows that if people don't know I'm open for business, I will never get the business. And so I hope people are not lost on the fact that your quadrant 2 is marketing. And for every signing agent, they should be living in quadrant 2, which I need to be marketing every single week, because marketing is what creates income in every business in America. Too many times signing agents focus in quadrant 1, which is, oh, I'm going to focus just on being a good signing agent. I'm going to focus on not missing signatures, initials, and dates, which, by the way, is an important part of an overall business strategy, but it's really in quadrant 2, which makes the biggest impact in our industry, that is marketing. I give you guys all the same script. The only difference between the Brads and the Autumns and the Bills and the Robins and the Laura's, they actually use the script. That's the only difference. And so I hope people got inspired by what you said, man. You live in quadrant 2. You got to think big to get big. Anything else that you can add to that, man?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty, but the interview can only be so long. So I have another mentor. He says about goal setting specifically. I believe, I don't want to butcher it, but don't be so scared to hit a goal. Don't be so scared to set a goal too big that you don't hit it. Mm-hmm. Be scared of setting a goal too low that you actually hit it. Right. And to speak to, and that's you, by the way, if no one knows that, that's Mark Wills. I don't know if he coined it, but it's a wonderful phrase. And to speak to that on goal setting, to give you an example, my income goal for LSA this year is 250,000. And when I say that, some people on the Facebook,
let's go. That's what I'm saying. I get so juiced when I see the mind expanding. $250,000. Let's go.
Let's go. Why not?
I get so excited when I hear the growth is what juices me up. So sorry, I had a moment I couldn't control that. Yeah, it's $250,000, man. Keep on going.
Well, that's a reaction I get. It's like, really? 250? Are you sure? I'm like, well, yeah, because it's just numbers. It's 12 months. It's 21.5 a month. It's about $4,887 a week. So you break that goal down to a bite-sized chunk, and you know what you got to do to accomplish it. And the plus side is, if I bust it and I kill it this year, but I take a few more vacations than I thought I would, and I have some time with that wealth with my family, and I only make 220. Oh no. But the point is, like you said, set the goal so high that you bust it and think about it every day to get to that point. And if you fall a little short, you'll be so much farther than you would have been with a small limiting goal.
That's right. And the only reason you get from other people is because that shows the doubt they have in them. That's why. People don't think they can reach it. So therefore they're putting what they can't do onto you. And so when someone tells me like, my goal is to have literally 100,000 members of the loan signing system, people look at me the same way, but that's them believing they couldn't get 100,000 members. It's
Right.
not us. So whenever someone looks at us like that, I automatically go into empathy role. Like, man, I'm sorry that you don't feel you can get like that. What can I do to help change your mindset?
Right.
Because that's their projections on you. And so, I want you to remember if someone says that to you, it's not because of anything outside of their limiting beliefs of what they're possible, not because of what your goal is being too big. And what I want people to hear about your 250 goal is it's an utter self-belief in oneself. And I'm proud of that, man. I'm very proud of you for having that mindset, because it's only 6 short months ago, you're an employee mindset. You've grown so much in 6 months of being a business owner. And when you say $250,000, what that tells me is a student who has massive self-belief, because self-belief is the number one key in growing anything in life. A relationship, a friendship is like, I believe I can be a good husband. I believe I can be a good friend. I believe I can be a good signing agent owner. And so when I hear the $250,000, man, it's an utter self-belief, and hope you know that I'm proud of you, man. And I'm arguably more proud of the growth, the personal growth, and the income you're making. And I don't want you to stop until you get to 7 figures. And once you get to 7 figures, your goal is to be the next coast to coast, you know what I mean? And keep building on those, you know what I mean? But I'm proud of you, and thank you for sharing your one tip with everybody. So let's kind of segue into the last question. This has been an epic
Sure.
conversation. I want to speak to someone now. The majority of this conversation is really spoken to current LSS students. The last question is, speaking of someone who may be watching this on YouTube, who maybe sitting on the fence of being a signing agent, not getting my course, just becoming a signing agent.
Mhm.
And I think every signing agent, before they jump into this venture, this industry, they have a little doubt about something. So I want to know what that was for you, to maybe help people through this doubt of whatever it was you experienced. What was that for you?
So I just knew I couldn't, well, I thought I couldn't do this business on my own. And so what was important to me is, if I go down this road with Mark, will I have the mentorship that he's talking about? Will I have a support system in place? Because I'm going to fail, which is fine, because that's the road to success. But along the way with those failures, can I get some coaching to just maybe help me and speed up my learning curve? And so I don't have to fall flat on my face too many times to get to where I'd like to go.
Yeah, well, I think you said something really vulnerable that I would like to kind of slow down on. Like, you were afraid, I'm trying to paraphrase, you were afraid of going at this business by yourself. You're afraid of being alone. Is that kind of a fair statement to make?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, again, because my concern is my family. So if I go on this journey by myself and I fall flat on my face again, I'm kind of right back where I was, with more money spent and invested that could have been used for my family or retirement or my kids' college. And I don't have much to show for it. So, that part was important to me, because I knew, after reading enough personal development books, that finding a mentor is incredibly important, because it just, as I mentioned, it speeds up that learning curve and lets you sidestep some of those pitfalls that someone else has already experienced.
Well, I mean, first off, I'm honored you chose me to be one of those mentors, man. Honestly, I am. So thank you.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, you're welcome. But let me also thank you for saying something so vulnerable, because I think a lot of people are afraid to be alone, and that's why they don't take a step into that unknown. And so I love that you were able to communicate. That was part of my hesitancy of going this industry, was like, what, I really have the support. And it's why I have those, Maryland specific groups. It's why I give you guys as much access as you can to me while serving so many. It's while I try to give you guys a platform. And what I want to say to you, Brad, that I hope inspires some other LSS students is, you choose to be active in the Facebook groups. You choose to be active in reaching out to other people. You choose to be active in watching On the Roads, even though you are making the big money. My point is like, we all have the same network I provide to all you students, but you're choosing to use that platform or network to make sure that you're not alone, right? I mean, your wife can only relate to you to a certain degree about this business, but
Right.
I see you posting once a week in the Facebook group and kind of talking out there and in choosing to get that interaction with other signing agents. So I want other students to be inspired by you because you're choosing not to be alone, So there's 12,000 people in the groups. There's some people I've never heard from.
Right.
They're making the choice to go on this journey by themselves. And so I hope this inspires other people that, Brad's making a very definitive decision. It's like, I don't want to be alone. I've told you that now. And so I'm choosing to make posts and I'm choosing to interact with other students. Kind of speak from that decision on you.
Sure. So I think you mentioned it many times, is that the reason these, besides the income, the reason you're doing what you're doing, Mark, is the impact you make on other people's lives. And that's something I didn't really get until I had some success with this industry. And then people started approaching me, both that I worked with before at my old restaurant job, and then people from the LSS group, people from other Facebook groups, and they were asking me for advice and tips and hacks and about signing service, dual commission, whatever it is. And so what's awesome is that people I know personally, locally, that used to work in the restaurant industry that are now transitioning into this business, and some have already transitioned and are doing great and they're killing it. I have somehow, in a small way, touched their life and changed the path of it, which is weird to think of, that they're on a much better path economically. They have more freedom, their stress levels lower, and that's a small benefit. I didn't realize when I got into this industry, like, that's awesome, because the smart and the most successful will reach out for that mentorship. So if you see someone killing it, why not ask them how they're killing it? As you said, there's 12,000 people in the group. There's like 60 on the roads. There's like, I don't know, 100 or more old 3 years worth of mentorship videos that are in your course that you can watch. If you haven't watched all those, you're doing yourself a disservice. Reach out to someone locally. You cannot learn everything you need to learn just sticking to yourself. You'll get there. It'll just take you several more years to get there. So why not get there faster?
Okay, I'm writing notes now, so I'm not forgetting a topic. You're dropping so much fire. It's why I love these. The first thing I want to say is that I love that you've really embraced the LSS way. And there's a saying that I didn't make up, but it's the duty of the successful to reach back and help the unsuccessful. Like once you reach a certain level, says I feel, and I embrace it, that it's our job to reach back and be like, I got you. That is the best way to receive, is to give. And so I love that you're doing that naturally. And as you know, it's a really cool feeling knowing that you're helping other people, and it almost becomes addicting. And so I am addicted to helping as many people as I can. But I love that you've done that. But you said a few things in there also is, you're choosing to reach out to other people. You're choosing to reach out to other signing agents in our group. But here's the thing I want to end with is you said something that I hope is not lost on any LSS students. Is there are 3 years of mentorship videos. I've given everything I could in my mind to help signing agents. You've chosen to watch all those. There are students who choose to watch 5 of them, 10 of them. And if you're wondering why Brad makes the money he makes, it's because he's choosing to go all in on his education. He's choosing to reach out to other people. Success is a choice. Success is not an accident. It's not a destination. It is a journey. And you're always working on your journey to get better. You're always working to improve upon yourself. And I say that to inspire the next student who's watching this. It's like, you can go down the list of all these on the roads. It's not an accident while they're at. Autumn went to 50 title companies. You're watching every single on the road. There's like 50 or 60 of them. You're watching these on the road interviews, which is another 50 or 60 of them. You're constantly feeding your brain. And you're listening to Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and Dr. Stephen Covey, like you're a sponge of knowledge. And so whether it's me or somebody else or other mentors, like the whole picture, I hope people are seeing what Brad's done to create the picture, create your business. And I always tell people, I can't take credit for your success, man. I'm such a small piece of this amazing wheel you've created. And I want people to be inspired by this wheel. I'm a small cog in it. There's Stephen R. Covey, there's Jim Rohn, there's Tony Robbins. Are you giving back? It's you helping other people. It's watching all my mentorships. Like it's this huge wheel you've created. I hope everybody's hearing this, man. And so thank you for taking some time on a Sunday away from your family, because you're so big into personal growth. I want to kind of leave the last words to you here. Is there anything on the way out of this interview that you just want to say to inspire somebody else? So maybe someone who's come from failed businesses, who've come from feeling like a failure or for like anything we touched upon, man, the floor is yours. Inspire somebody.
Okay, so first off, before that, LSS students, if you have not gone back and watched the old mentorship videos, at least do me this favor. Go back to the first couple where Mark has this wonderful facial hair that you will thoroughly enjoy watching, just for entertainment purposes only.
Okay, okay, we're gonna talk about that. It's funny. It's like, God, I'm like embarrassed right now. The reason I keep those, by the way, is I want people to see the growth that I've made.
Right.
When I first started those, man, I'm not as polished as I am today. You see me on the most current mentorships, like I'm just fire, but it was 3 years of getting there.
Right.
So sometimes those first mentorships are, I don't want to say pointless, but I'm all over the place. Information is okay at best. But the reason I keep them in there, because I'm hoping I inspire people, that people come into the group now. I'm like, oh, Mark's always been like this. Like I'm always trying to get better. And so I show that because I have the worst facial in the world. But if you've seen, I'm choppy. I don't know where I'm really going. I have no organization. But I keep them in there so I can show you guys the growth that I'm making. I'm on the same journey as you guys. Like, I'm not any different. I started this course 4 years just saying, I want to help someone else. I'm not the polished speaker that I am today, but it took 4 years of speaking into a camera like this to get here.
Right.
So just like you guys are on your own journey of no signing agent, and you're on your second journey, which is becoming a signing service owner. And so we're all in a growth process. And I wanted to mention that because I do want people to go back there, not to only watch my great facial hair, but to show people like I'm on the same journey as you, man. You know what I mean? But no, thank you for saying that, because too often, man, people see you big earners. They just think it happens overnight. I think it happens like 6 months is incredibly quick. But what people aren't seeing is literally the 100 hours of studying you're putting in to get to there. That's what people don't see. And that's why I like these interviews, so people can see you've put in, between Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and Stephen R. Covey and my course, you've put in 100 hours of learning. That shouldn't go untold, and that shouldn't go unnoticed. So anyhow, any other things you want to leave to inspire people with?
Sure. So goal setting is so incredibly important. If you're an LSS student, go back and watch any of the prior mentorships Mark has done on goal setting. They're usually right before the beginning of the year in December, usually the one right before the end of the year. Start there, and he will speak on setting goals, small bite-sized chunks. Another part of that is making sure you're tracking those goals on a weekly basis. And are you holding yourself accountable? So if you're an LSA and your goal is to market once a week to a title company, to 3 title companies, did you check that box on Wednesday? Did you physically get out there? If you're an LSA, and another thing is you want to reach a certain income level, and that requires you to do 25 appointments a week, did you get the 25 appointments a week? So the magical thing about our brain is that when you have something to focus on, like a goal, a very specific written goal that you can review and read every day, your brain will subconsciously force you to do whatever you have to do to reach that goal. It's just like when you're buying a car and after you purchase a car, and then you see that same model car on the road all the freaking time. It was always there, but your brain didn't deem it as important until you purchased that car. It's the same exact mentality. You have some powerful tools in here, use them. Written goals are so incredibly important for anyone that has any kind of success, because it not only gives you something to track and see every day and review, but it helps inspire you. And on those goals, write all of your whys, all your reasons for reaching that goal, the ones that really hit you in the chest and will get you up early, have you staying up late and getting after it. So goal setting is so incredibly important. And another one you mentioned before this last question was about studying. If you want to be successful, study success. And that's why I reach out to other successful students, because I want to know what they're doing. And to that effect, the LSS group, if you become very successful, if you want to be wealthy, study wealth. If you're going to get all this extra income for this wonderful tool that we're on, but you got to know what to do with it, right? They say if you divided up all the money in the world equally and put it in everyone's hands, 5 years later, it would be back in the same hands. It's because, you have to develop yourself. So with personal development, your income will never exceed your personal development. So if you want to be a more successful person, you have to work on that. That change has to come from inside. It's not going to magically happen. So study success, study wealth, study happiness, whatever it is you want, study it, become a great student. And, the sky's the limit for whatever it is you're trying to get after.
If there was a mic, you should drop it. That was fire. Boom. Man, I just want to say again, I'm going to end with this. Literally, I'm proud of you. I hope you know that. I'm humbled and honored to be on this journey with you, man. But I think where you're doing is great, but there's more greatness in you. So don't stop. Signing service, 7 figures, biggest on the East Coast. Like, think big, you'll get big, man. But I'm proud of you, brother. So thank you again for taking all this time, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark, for everything you do for us. You say it's a small part of the journey. It's a little bit bigger than you're giving yourself credit for.
Oh, thank you, brother, man. I really do appreciate it. Until next time, man. Thank you so much, Russ. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.